Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week of away days. And yes, for me, it's always a little bit of a special one with the big game against Leicester City. Obviously, being from Leicester myself, but being a Geordie at heart, it's always means a little bit more to me. So I'm buzzing for this game. I can't wait to take the game to them. Hopefully at St James's Park. But as always, I'm welcomed by the main man, Chris Hall. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. And we're still buzzing over the course of this week. Big 3 points against Wolves, looking like we're all but safe. I think we talked about earlier in the week, sort of having 1 foot already in the door for the season and sort of 3/4 of the other foot there. We just need that final win or the next couple of points to kind of guarantee that. But from your perspective, you've had a week to digest that big win against Wolves. How are you feeling? How are you feeling coming into the game against Leicester from sort of from your perspective?
Yeah, do you know what, Pete? I can't believe like the game was on Friday. It feels like it was yesterday. And I cannot wait for the match against Leicester. And I think it's going to be another big atmosphere, isn't it? I know obviously you're going with your little girl, and I'm very jealous, mate, because any game nowadays at St James's Park is just electric, isn't it? And the war flags are out and the fans are buzzing. And I think the fans on the whole in the stadium, there's not that pressure, that anxiety towards the players, because we know we're nearly there, we know we're nearly over the line, and I'd say we're 2 or 3 points away from actual safety. I think it's going to be a really good game, and Am I right in saying, Pete, we've got? Oh no, maybe I'm thinking of no. I think I'm thinking of Everton. Everton have got Leicester a couple of times in a row quite quickly, haven't they? But I just think with this game, it's going to be a bit of a litmus test for me, because the way I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, how far have we come? Because this Leicester side, I know they're a little bit out of form. They're not, hitting the heights that they have been in previous seasons. But they're still on the day a good side, and I think I forget who it was who said it, but they've got some big players back now. I know in defence they've been struggling particularly, but Wesley Fofana's back. I believe Johnny Evans will be back now, so that's a big plus for them because they're two very good players. But no, I'm really, really confident going into the match. I think I'm hoping that we see ourselves on the front foot. I think we've got nothing to lose. Let's just go out there and perform. It'll be interesting to see how we line up, whether we'll stick to the same formation. I imagine we probably will. But you never know with Eddie Howe. We know that he will change things up if he feels he has to. Now that we've got Bruno kind of settled in the 11, for me, I think he's got to stay in there. But it's now whether he decides to keep Jonjo Shelvey in there, or whether we have to drop Shelvey and stick with Joe Linton and Willock. I'm not sure how he's going to do it, and I am intrigued because I saw an interesting stat, funnily enough, before I logged on, and it was saying that apparently we haven't lost a game this season. Hang on, let me get my words right here. We haven't won a game this season when Jonjo Shelvey hasn't been in the starting 11. Which I found really, really interesting, and I thought, bloody hell. So is there a case for you've got to get John Joe Shelby in there? I don't know. But then the problem that we've got.
What's going on there? Nobody wants to see me. The other way around. No, not that way.
You're back. You come back again, Pete.
No.
The problem that we've got is it's integrating John Joe Shelby into the 11 because, as we know, and I think we've all established, especially after that Tottenham game, Pete, at the Tottenham Stadium, as soon as Bruno came on, obviously the game was done, but it kind of showed us that Bruno Gomes really needs to be in this starting 11. So for me, the big problem that Eddie Howe's got is whether we stick with Bruno and Shelby or whether we have to drop Shelby. But then, me personally, I'd like to see Shelby back in the 11 because I know there's some doubters out there. There's some people who aren't overly keen on John Joe Shelby, but since Eddie Howe's come in, I can't really knock him if I'm honest. So it's a nice problem to have, Pete. But for me, I would like to see John Joe Shelby back in that 11. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, or whether we kind of stick with what we went with Wolves. I don't know, but what are your thoughts? Do you think that we'll stick with the same 11 that we played against Wolves?
Yes. Ultimately, I think we will, and I think it's very difficult to change a winning side, but the way in which we played for long parts, I don't see why it needs to change. Apart from, I think you've alluded to already, the natural change with Fraser coming out because of injury, and obviously he'll be replaced. But it'll be interesting who will be replaced with. Lots think Miggy, could be other options there, and Jacob Murphy. But yeah, I think the majority of the team will definitely stay the same, and they want that continuity going into a key run of fixtures. Leicester, Palace, Norwich, all within a 7-day period. It's a big period of time that I think we really need to get through that period and be safe, guaranteed after that stage. Yeah. That's just my opinion. But yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. With regards to our picking of the team. And look, the board will come out at some point, so we'll be able to discuss it in a little bit more detail, as well as our guest that's just about to join us now. So, of course, we say it every week, it's never really the same unless we have an opposition's perspective, and this is what we love about away days. So, with that being said, it's a pleasure to welcome in Chris from the Leicester Till I Die podcast.
Good evening, gents. How are you?
Evening, Chris.
Not too bad. Great to have you on. Thank you for
having me on.
I don't think anyone would know that you weren't a Leicester fan from what we can see. The
clues are there. If you look, in fact, I've just actually finished one of my own shows, which was a quiz, and it was with a Watford fan, and his made mine look like Audi compared to his Marks and Spencers. It was covered. It was amazing. But no, it is. I love it when delivery people come and they go, "Oh, you're a Leicester fan?" Like, no, I just like collecting Leicester stuff, But there we go.
Love it. Like I say, it's fantastic to have you on. Pleasure. And I alluded to at the beginning of the show before you came in the green room, being from Leicester myself and being a Newcastle fan, this game's always kind of big for me, bigger than most in the week. But look, I'm going to come to you with one or two things about Leicester. So obviously, first of all, I'll kind of want to get your sort of opinion on Leicester's season, really. I mean, you've not had a bad sort of run recently. Beating Brentford, as we can see on there, a good draw at Old Trafford. Some may say you should have won. I certainly believe that.
I'm one of them. Yes,
definitely. You got and we'll get into this conversation shortly. I mean, you've got a draw against PSV and then a good win against Crystal Palace at home. You're sitting ninth in the table, 40 points, with a couple of games in hand on some teams around you. How would you assess your season so far? And was it the season that you expected, what you're currently having right now?
I don't think it was a season any Leicester fan expected. And the problem with being a football fan is that the better you do, the more the expectations grow. And we've had 2 seasons And people have said we've actually bottled top four because we finished 5th 2 seasons running. From a Leicester's point of view, we haven't bottled top four. We have done absolutely bloody brilliantly to get 5th. When you look at sort of the big teams that are sort of, well, Sky's favourite teams that are out there. So we've had 2 good seasons. We come into this season and I hate using this as an excuse. I used to hate it when other teams use it, but we have been absolutely racked by injuries. Our best defender Fofana gets his leg broken by Villarreal in a pre-season friendly, and he's only just coming back now. We've had at one point we had 22 players injured, and we had 9 defenders that were injured. Brendan Rodgers didn't have a team talk. Brendan Rodgers introduced the defenders to each other because we never had the same defence sort of 2 games running. And we used to think, why does he keep changing the formation all the time? And it's because he had to go with whichever, going on a pre-match, right, who's fit, you stick your hand, right, you're in the team, it was that bad. And to say that we're in a quarter-final of a European competition, and I know some of the bigger clubs poo-poo the conference, but I'm sorry, it's a European competition. We're in it, you guys aren't, sort of thing, and gets us top 10. I think he's done a bloody good job with everything that's gone on because he's never come out and complained about the injuries.
Yeah. No, I think that's a valid point. It was interesting what you said, and I think this ties into what we're sort of looking at the moment as a fan base, and that you had a fantastic end to last season. You won the FA Cup. You then went on to win the Community Shield against Man City.
Now, can we just say, some people call it the Community Shield. I like to call it the English Super Cup.
I tell you what, if we were in it, I think we'd be calling it.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's what they do in Spain. Yeah. I mean, if we didn't lose it, it'd just be a pre-season. If we lost it, I mean, it'd just be a pre-season friendly. But
it's a great shout, to be fair. So you won the English Super Cup. I'm going to stick with that. And I think that's where some of the issues are. Knowing a lot of Leicester fans from where I am on a day-to-day basis, they were sort of expecting better, and it kind of leads in. And I'll come to you. I'll come to our Chris, shall we say, because you're both Chris.
That'll be confusing.
Dominated by Chris's tonight, but I'll come to Chris Hall. From our perspective, I think this is something that we need to be a little bit mindful of, because it's that managing expectations, and I think that's what Leicester have suffered with this season, is it managing those expectations. People were demanding them to get top 4 again, and when it didn't look likely earlier on in the season, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, from a Leicester perspective, there was a lot of negativity because it didn't look like you were going to get top 4. And this is what I worry about, Chris H. This is what I worry about from a Newcastle perspective. But from your point of view, Chris H, were you expecting better from Leicester, and would you still see this from their perspective as a good season?
Do you know what? I think listening to Chris, then obviously it's interesting because certainly from an outsider's point of view, I was expecting better. However, that's only because of how highly I rate Leicester. And obviously the previous performances I've seen, and what Brendan Rodgers has done. I think since he's come in, he's been fantastic. Obviously, Claudio Ranieri was, he gets all the plaudits, obviously, for their kind of beginning the journey, if you like, or you could say Nigel Pearson, who was before him. Yeah. But I think for me, it's easy for me to say, Chris, but I think it's because the bar was raised so high. But it's very, very easy for fans to kind of go, oh, they're a disappointment, and Brendan Rodgers, they've got to be asking questions of him and stuff like that. But let's not forget, if you look at the teams around, the top 6, top 7, top 8, the money that they're spending is unreal, and the contacts that they've got. I mean, look at Conte. He's coming to Tottenham, not had all that much money to spend, but he's getting in the likes of Bentancur and Kuleveshki. And he's getting, because of the contacts he's got and because of the name that he is. And it's difficult for clubs at the top to compete with that. And you're absolutely right what you say, Pete, you know, that we have to be careful ourselves, because as soon as we spend a little bit of money, I think, you know, people will start expecting things from us like they have done Leicester. But let's not forget, you know, Leicester have, there's been the odd signing where it's been, you know, a little bit, shall I say, they've spent a lot of money on certain players. One name springs to mind, Chris, which would be Ayoze Perez.
Well, Slimani is the other one that springs to mind. You know, we couldn't even give him away to you. Bloody hell! You know, we tried. And you want Perez back, by the way?
Absolutely not. But thank you,
please. We've got the receipt. We've got the receipt.
Well, interestingly, for both of you, is that actually that was where we were going to segue to next. So let's discuss him. Ayoze Perez. You know, we've talked about him before. Obviously, he made that move a few years ago to Leicester, 30 million buyout clause. We were really, you know, gutted as a fan base. The vast majority were, because he was coming off the back of a good goal scoring season for us. I think it's his best at the club, and he's gone to you guys. And he's had moments. Let's not forget that he's had some moments over the last couple of years. But you know, this year, I think he's played, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's played 1 minute of Premier League football in this calendar year, so 2022 so far. Now, bearing in mind we're midway through April, he's only played 1 minute of Premier League football. Chris, what's going on? What's happening with Ayoze Perez at Leicester? You know, talk to us from your perspective.
He was Rodgers' first signing, and I think Rodgers saw him as the best way to describe it, a defensive attacker, if that makes sense. He was going to be the first line of defense if the opposition broke out. We kind of all saw him as sort of a striker, but he's obviously not getting the goals. You know, I mean, yeah, he scored. You know, got a hat trick against Southampton, but we beat them 9-0, and you know, any one of us three could have got a hat trick that night. You know. I mean, the best way to sum it was he got sent off earlier in the season, and we appealed to the FA, and they refused point blankly to increase his suspension. But we did try. We did try to get it increased. But you know, with clubs, they sometimes just seem to take a dislike to players. You know, and once they've got that in their mind, it's hard to shift it. And the problem is where he fits in, you know, because Brendan's kind of bought him probably without even thinking possibly where he's going to play him, because you know, when he's come on, he's played on the right wing a lot, and he's not a winger. I don't know whether you guys would agree with me here, but he's not a winger, and he's being played out wide on the right. And everybody sort of said, well, you know, it's not his fault. He's being played out of position. And when he actually comes in and plays this sort of position, he's not had long enough to sort of prove to us what he's got. It's like Inacho. You know, we bought him. He came on for the sort of 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Players aren't going to be able to show you what they can do in that sort of time. Then last season, because of the way the injuries worked out, we had to play him. And we had to play him and Vardy together. And he was banging them in like it was like, you know, shooting time for ducks. It was absolutely amazing. And now he's gone back to the same, where he can't get a game at all. But I don't know what it is with Perez. He's not played, and he's been fit, and he's not been picked, which kind of says to me that maybe Brendan started to see what the rest of us are seeing. You know, and that he doesn't bring. He's the problem is. I mean, I think it was 30 million, wasn't it? And I think we just. I mean, it was completely left field. I mean, you know, there was no rumours or anything. It just came out, and that was his get out clause, and we paid it, and it's like, wow, you know. And for us, 30 million is a lot of money still, you know, and. You know, I mean, Chelsea sort of throw that away, you know, most weeks. But I don't know. He's just been a disappointment, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him go. in this summer window, because like I say, we've had injuries and he's not been picked, and that kind of speaks volumes.
No, definitely.
But if you want him back, please, like I say, we'll drive him. We'll drive him. You don't have to pay his transport.
Brilliant. The biggest thing for me, and I don't know if you noticed this, Chris, as well, Chris H, is that when a player is not fancied at a club like Leicester City, when they can't even get a start in the Europa Conference League.
Yeah,
is that I'm looking at the team sheet and I'm thinking, surely he's got to play now. Surely he's got to be in the team. And you're looking and he's on the bench. And like you just said, Chris, like when he does come on, he only plays like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, like Chris H, from your perspective, we've obviously watched and been on the terraces with Ayoze Perez. Has it surprised you this season how bad he's been, or how ineffective or unused he's been for Leicester?
I don't know if it surprises me, Pete, because I know you said at the start of this that a few fans were disappointed that he left, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't singing from the rooftops when he left, but I must admit, when I found out it was for 30 million, I was a bit like, okay. I mean, under Ashley, Chris, you'll probably know that we used to get all excited, when we sold players, like we got 30 million for Sissoko, and we were made up going, it's cracking money, it invested back in the club and stuff, and the money would never get invested back in the club. So I don't know why we were all so delighted, because chances are we'd sell someone for 30 million and then Ashley would go to the manager who was, either Bruce or McLaren or Pardew or whatever, here's 5 million, replace him. And that was always the issue, because the rest of the money would get pocketed. But I think, me personally, I liked Ayoze Perez and I enjoyed his time at the club. But then, however, I'm looking at it from a different perspective than yourself as Leicester fans are, because I saw a £1.5 million signing from Tenerife. I wasn't looking at a £30 million signing, and I think if we had paid 30 million for Ayoze Perez, I would expect more. But you're absolutely spot on in what you say. I feel sorry for him in the sense that he probably doesn't really fit your system. In fact, thinking now around the Premier League, I'd struggle to see what system he'd fit in, because a lot of Premier League clubs now predominantly play with wingers rather than number 10s. Yeah. And he is a number 10.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Unless you played like a 4-2-3-1, but then chances are, Chris, which I'm sure you'll agree, if you're playing a 4-2-3-1, so say you had Vardy up front and then you had Harvey Barnes on one wing and you had Lookman on the other wing, the number 10, you're probably going to stick Maddison there. You wouldn't.
That is. You could read my mind. That is exactly the point. And do you pick Maddison or do you pick Perez? I'm sorry, you pick Madison. I can say I've nothing against him as a player, as a person, because he's you see his Instagram posts, he does his training, does it. Well, he's never publicly complained. But like you say, I just think we tried him. We're not playing, like you say, best system for him, and he's not a utility player. He can't play on the wing. And I think he'd be gone.
Just as a nice kind of segue out before we get our other guest who's waiting in the green room in, Adam's put a question on here. Is that would Chris rather have Demarai Gray given his start with Everton than Perez?
No, because Gray's shit as well. I mean, Gray flat. I've got a mate who's a Birmingham fan, and he went absolutely mad at me when we bought Demarai Gray, because he was going to be the next big thing. And obviously with Leicester, we do buy youth, younger players and build them up. And then there's some gullible club like Man United come and pay 80 million to us for them. But with Demarai Gray, he and when you think, we went through a few managers after Ranieri, we had Shakespeare and we had a couple more very great on a regular basis. And that's the thing, if it's 3 or 4 managers are all seeing the same thing, then you've got to think there's something with his attitude. And you'd see him at a match, and when the cameras flip round and show the subs all sat there and what have you, and he's on his phone, and it's like, come on, mate, watch the game in case you got to come on. But the problem was that when he came on, for like say 10, 15 minutes, he had fantastic. He played well. Then for the next game, he'd be you'd start him and he'd be rubbish. But I have to say, and I know I've said he's shit and what have you. He was disappointment. He had so much potential. I think he's gone off the boil at Everton, to be honest with you. I think he started well, and now it's got back to how he was with us. But, we'll always be grateful to Demarai Gray because he scored the goal against Cardiff in the first game after our chairman passed away in the helicopter accident. And for that, he will, he'll always hold a special part of the club. But no, I wouldn't want either of them, to be honest with you.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, Leicester's trajectory, you wouldn't want to be looking back to the likes of Gray and maybe one or two others anyway. But Gray has had moments at Everton where he's played well. I think injuries are the big thing that's really kind of kept him from progressing the way in which he probably would have liked, apart from the fact that he's played for Everton. But that's another point. We'll get onto that another time.
Yeah.
However, we have a very special guest making his away days debut, and we're going to be talking for a little while at all things Newcastle United, and it's Newcastle World's own Jordan Cronin. How you doing, Jordan?
Hello, lads. Good to be back. Thanks for having us again.
Good man.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Great to have you back in. And how was the football tonight?
As you can tell, I'm probably still a bit red in the face. So I finished probably just after 8 o'clock, and I've sped straight back home. So still a bit sweaty, but no, it was good. I got a couple of goals, so a nice little confidence boost ahead of playing next week as well.
Good man.
Eddie Howe will sign you up, won't he?
Hope so, yeah. I rate myself as a left back, so I'd say that I probably wouldn't get in ahead of my target at the moment, would I? So I might have to wait for me.
Well, we've only got one at the moment, and Dummett's not getting in. So who's to say you couldn't be fighting for that left back spot? Watch this space. But Jordan, absolute pleasure to have you. Great to have you on. We've just been talking about the game, talk about Perez and a few sort of ex-Leicester players from Chris's point of view. From a Newcastle point of view, how are you feeling going into this game against Leicester? 34 points. Some in the fan base are already talking as if we're safe already. Do you feel the same, Jordan, at this stage? And what's your sort of mindset in going into this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think Newcastle are safe. I think if they were to lose every game between now and the end of the season, I still think they'd stay up. But obviously, you don't want that because that would be a pretty crap end of the season, to say the least. So, no, you want to get as many wins as possible, and you want to be mathematically safe as quick as possible as well. So, the manager that Eddie Howe is will not admit that Newcastle are safe, even though you can probably say that they are now. He won't say they are safe until they mathematically are safe. So against Leicester, it's an opportunity for 3 points, and you're 3 points closer to being guaranteed safety. So that'll be the mindset heading into it. I'd love to sit here in 2 weeks' time. Newcastle win back-to-back home games against Leicester, Crystal Palace, likes of Norwich, Burnley, and Watford fail to win. Then Newcastle will be mathematically safe by then. So that's the mindset at the minute. Get as many points as possible and finish the season on a high. You look at the league table now. Personally, myself, I'm looking up rather than down. You're still checking over your shoulder a little bit because as I say, you want to be safe as quickly as possible. But there's no chance Newcastle are going down now. So let's see how high they can finish. It would be really nice to finish the season on a high going into that summer. But yeah, a tough game on Sunday, to say the least. Certainly, Leicester over the last few weeks or recent months have looked like the Leicester of the old, if you like, the one of recent seasons that have been, competing for European places. They've struggled with injuries this year. Had a lot of fixtures to play as well, in the UEFA Conference League. So they know that they're a good side, as we're seeing down there when they beat Newcastle 4-0. But Newcastle's home form strong. They haven't lost a game in 2022 at St James's. Haven't lost a game since that 4-0 Manchester City defeat. So Newcastle will fancy the chances, I'm sure, but it won't be an easy game by any stretch.
So you've said it's obviously not going to be an easy game, and it won't be. You you touched on that Leicester have picked up form, and we've alluded to that as well. Are there any players in particular for Leicester that you're in particular worried about going into Sunday's game that you think, as a team, and we can look at this when we look at the lineups as well later on. Are there anyone in particular that you think we need to be on our game to stop them playing for Leicester on Sunday?
Yeah, I think the obvious one's James Maddison. Always likes a goal against Newcastle. Certainly scored a couple of free kicks from memory against Newcastle. So he's a danger man. Everything usually goes through him. But they've got dangerous players all over the park. I think Jamie Vardy might be out of this one, is he? From just reading.
Yeah.
So that's one less player to worry about, because Jamie Vardy always scores against Newcastle. But then he's replacing like Patson Dachau scored against Newcastle in the last fixture as well. Is another player to watch out for. So they've got quality all over the pitch. But yeah, Maddison is the one I'd watch out for. But Newcastle, if you take away that Tottenham Hotspur game of being quite solid defensively, so get back to the standard that they're showing in that 9-game unbeaten run, where they were solid defensively, and hopefully they can keep Leicester at bay.
Chris, I'll come back to you from Chris from the Leicester part. I'm going to get confused with
I was going
to ask. I'll refer to you as Leicester Chris.
Yeah,
and then
I'll do.
Chris H. So Leicester Chris, do you think, and from your perspective, do you think that Leicester are going into this game on Sunday as it being a game that they're kind of not prioritising? You've alluded to already that there's a big game on Thursday, the away fixture with PSV in the Europa Conference. Do you think that they're going to take this game as kind of like as the back burner and really focus on PSV, or do you think it'd be the other way round to try and get Leicester as far up the table as possible?
Both in a kind of way, and I think sort of for Newcastle, it might have been better for you to have played when we played Palace. That was before the BSG. I mean, we made 7 changes for the game against Crystal Palace, and we were still the better team. We played them off the pitch. We have had, like I say, a lot of injuries. We've now got to the point where all our players are coming back slowly. Still got the odd injury here and there, but they're coming back just at the business end of the season. And we're thinking the way that these teams above us are dropping points, we could still finish 7th and claim a European. That's not. I know there's 11 points, but with 2-3 games in hand on some of them, if we lose tomorrow, then you could see the backlash against yourselves, because if that's gone. I mean, obviously you want to win every game, of course you do. And I don't know whether you should prioritise or not, but there will be changes, probably about 7 changes again for the game tomorrow night, and then there'll probably be changed back, as we alluded to earlier, for your game. But we've now got, actually, with having all the players back we've got a really strong bench, plus Perez. We've got, sorry, just add that at the end. But no, for the first time this season, he made changes at the back, and we'd got Amati and we'd got Soyuncu playing. And it's like, well, hang on. The other game was for Fofana and Evans. We've never had 4 fit centre-backs all season. And now we can make those changes, and it'll be for Fofana and Evans, I'm pretty sure, for the PSV game. So if we win, we're going to be on a high. And if we lose, we're just going to have a point to prove and, try and get us for the league. So it's really a lose-lose situation for you, I think.
Okay, interesting. And Chris H, I'll come to you. From a Newcastle perspective, Leicester, Chris has already said it from his perspective that they're going to be strong no matter what. Now, there will be players, I imagine, in that Leicester team that will play Thursday and Sunday. Can we take advantage of the fact that they have played on the Thursday and then again on the Sunday. And we've had a week to kind of prepare for that, and there's a potential that we're looking fresh. Do you think that we're kind of looking at to kind of, capitalize on that?
I think we should be, and I'm sure Eddie Howe will have that in the back of his mind if he hasn't already told the players that. There's a danger, certainly from Leicester's point of view, that they may be tired from the Thursday match, but also they may have, depending how that match goes, they may have one eye on the fixture the following week. So that can certainly play into our hands. The thing with Leicester is, though, as we saw, Pete, when we went to the King Power, they've got a pretty strong squad, haven't they? And even when they drop a few players or rest a few players, the players they bring in are still of a really good quality. I had a question, actually, if you don't mind, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun here, Pete, or segueing into something you were going to, but I'm dying to ask Chris about Dewsbury Hall. Now, I know that, no relation, by the way. I know that
you wish.
yeah. I know that he's kind of broken onto the scene this season, and I must admit I've not seen very much of him, but I noticed that he's really starting to solidify a place within the team. And I just wanted to know from Chris, is he going to be the next big thing? I know you were talking before, Chris, about Demarai Gray being a letdown, but is he certainly someone who you think's going to kind of really cement a place?
I would have no disrespect to Demarai, but yeah, Kieran Dewsbury Hall, he's got it. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, with Demarai, it was bring him on as a sub, but plays well for 10 minutes, putting him in at the start, take him off after sort of half time or whatever. Dewsbury Hall, I mean, he's not that, he's actually 24, 25, so he's not actually young, but he had a season last season at Championship Luton Town. And he won literally every award. Players' player, a goal of the season. If there was an award going at Luton, he won it. He loves playing for Leicester. He's a Leicester lad. He scored his first goal in the Premier League. I think he's actually already got one in Europe, but he scored his first goal in the Premier League against Palace. And it wasn't a tap-in. It was like a top corner job. And that's after he'd set the goal up for Lookman, the first goal. And this pass just took out 4 Palace defenders. He is young, but in a sense of, he wants to run at the opposition. He's not comfortable. He just doesn't want to hold on to the ball. He wants to get at you. And, like I say, he is. I'm almost to the point of, he isn't Youri Tielemans, obviously. He's not, that standard yet. But if Youri goes in the summer, which he more than likely will do, I'm not worried with having Dewsbury Hall there. It probably means we don't have to go and buy another £40 million player. We can sort of look at maybe somebody a bit younger and cheaper that we can develop. But yeah, he's going to be. He's a future captain as well. He speaks well. Brendan Rodgers has said that about him being a future captain. So yeah, I could say, I think this is one of the occasions where the loan system works, because he's earned his stripes, and he's it's the first name on the team sheet, and we've got some players you think that would be, but I'd have him. Yeah, he's amazing. I'd have his babies. What can I say? But you've got to watch him. I know. Sorry, I've forgotten the gentleman's name next to me, but Jordan. Sorry, Jordan. Just as I was about to say it, the screen went up and took the names off. You were saying about James Maddison being one to watch. If he plays, and there's no reason why he can't play, Palace, PSV, and Newcastle. Say he's young. You need to watch out for him as well, because down that left-hand side, we've got Luke Thomas, who again has come through the youth system as a defender, and he's going to be as good as Ben Chilwell. You then got Dewsbury Hall on that left-hand side, and then you've got Harvey Barnes. And they've all come through the youth system. And I've got to be honest with you, when they click, and they do click, because I say they've played, they've come through all the systems together, it's just magical to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Leicester, there's a lot of teams out there that have talked about, players that have come through the academies and have churned through the academies. Leicester in recent years, like you just alluded to, Chris, they've churned through a lot of top young players that are going on and really developing their career. And as Newcastle fans, and Jordan would have wrote on this, and surely will write on this as the months and years go along, is that's definitely an area that we want to develop in terms of those young players coming through.
So can I think the thing with Newcastle is, you've got your new owners, and well done, you've got the money, well done, you deserve it. It's anybody who doesn't think that Newcastle should have the money are just jealous. It's what it is, and they all wish they could have it. But what a lot of the big clubs do, they look and say, Leicester are doing well in the transfer market, blah blah blah. But the big clubs look at the same players that we do, but they won't take a risk on them. We got Fofana from St Etienne, and I think it was about 20 million, something like that. He's going to be massive, absolutely massive. And you got the big clubs saying, oh, yeah, we were looking at him. Well, why don't you buy him? Because the big clubs don't want the hassle of getting a young player and then putting him through and building him up. They want the ready-made article. So, like with Harry Maguire, we got him from Hull when they went down for 19-odd million, and we sold him on for 80 million. But Man United have the chance to buy him when we did.
Yeah. So did we. But I remember, I don't know, Chris H. Jordan, I don't know if you remember as well. We were actually one of the first teams before Leicester that came in for Harry Maguire. And actually, I think it was the season that we got relegated that Leicester actually ended up signing Harry Maguire, because I think it was Rafa Benitez was actually looking at signing him if we'd have stayed in the Premier League. And I think it was, he came from Hull, and we'd had that potential deal, potentially wrapped up. And it was a case of we were willing to pay 10 million. And I think Hull were willing to take 10 million from him. But then you came in with 16 million and were willing to pay the 16 million. And Mike Ashley, being Mike Ashley, said, that's too much money for us. And he's done that with countless players over the years that he was owner of this football club. And then he ended up going to Leicester. But to be fair, Leicester were on a completely different trajectory at that time. So he probably would have always gone to Leicester anyway. But I know from that point of view, we were really, really sort of Maguire, and that's probably one deal that went in our favour. Sorry in the end, but from that point of view, it just shows that you have been willing to take the chance on players. Yuri Tielemans is another one. He was at Monaco, doing well at Monaco, but because it was in the French league, it was in Liga, the big boys didn't want to take a chance on him. Now, we'll get on to Tielemans now. You've already said, Chris, you think he's going to go. Has he kind of made noises from the Leicester perspective that he wants to leave, or is it a gut feeling for you?
Well, you depends which website you go on, which paper you pick up. It's just two completely different stories on the same day. I mean, you have to read into it. I mean, we got him on loan, and then Man United came in for him, but he stuck with us because we'd taken the chance with him on loan. He is an amazing player. We've been talking to him for about a year now about extending his contract, and he hasn't. Kind of says something. If you've been talking to somebody that long and they haven't agreed a deal, it kind of says something. And he's playing for Belgium. He's a Belgium international. I think he's captain them. He wants to play at the top level. He wants to play in Champions League. And this is what makes me laugh, that when you get these papers said, Man United and Arsenal are leading the race for him. No, they're not, because they're not in for a chance of the Champions League. That's what he wants. If he's going to go to Man United or Arsenal, he's going for the money. But he wants Champions League football. It's a shame now, because we've only got a year left on his contract. It is one player. We're not going to do a Harry Maguire and get a huge sell-on fee because he's only got a year left. He's come out and said that if he's at Leicester for another year, he's quite happy. He's not going to cause him any problems. It's going to cause us financial problems. He'll go on a free then, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he wants, like I say, there's nothing to say that he's going to stay in the Premier League. He's been linked with sort of the top clubs from Germany and Spain and Italy. So he wants that top flight football. And I think what he's done, he's going to wait till the summer, and he's going to look and say, right, who's in Champions League places? That team's coming in for me. Right, well, yeah, get the agent to talk to him because they're in the Champions League. Man United, no, you're not in the Champions League. I don't think he'll be interested. But he also might be looking and say, well, let's just see where Leicester are at the end of the season. Fofana, who's been injured up until a few weeks ago, but great defender, youngster, just breaking into the French first team squad. He's just signed a new contract. And he's got like a year or so left on his as well, over a year. And, Tielemans might be sat there and going, hell, if Fofana's staying, and he might be looking at what Leicester's plans are, because we haven't had a good season. And I always think it was Clinton Morrison, I think, I was listening to on the radio. And he was saying, judge Brendan Rodgers and the Leicester team when they've got all their players back. Because then you'll see the real them. And we know when we've got a full-strength team, what Brendan Rodgers can get out of us. FA Cup, English Super Cup, etc. So it's going to be interesting with Tielemans. He's giving his all. He's not doing a Mahrez and camping at Paris airport waiting to see who comes in for him. He's not moaning or doing anything like that. And he's getting on, and he's really... You can see from his attitude, yes, he has a bad game, but then, every player can do that. But I'd hate to see him go. But if he goes, let's be honest with you, he won the FA Cup for us. He goes with our good wishes. But please stay if you're watching this, Yuri. Which I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he is. I want to know the lowdown.
Sorry, that was a very long answer to...
No, it's good because this is why we ask the questions, Chris, is because we like to get the opposition's view on certain players. We read certain stuff and hear certain stuff on the TV and in the news, but actually from a fan's perspective, it's really important to kind of get your perspective on certain things because there was elements of Youri Tielemans that we weren't aware of. But I'm just gonna segue nicely into a little bit of a Newcastle chat, and there's a question here for you, Jordan, with regards to one or two Newcastle players. It says from Tom Dixon, question for Jordan: is there any truth in Trippier has suffered a setback in his injury, and is there any news yet on Wilson returning? There was a little bit of news the back end of last week that could potentially have been the case. Have we heard any more since then?
No, I don't think there has been a setback with Trippier. The case with Trippier was he went for a progress scan on the Friday before the Tottenham game, and Eddie Howe said in that press conference that had the scan came back, all clear, that would be to push him back quite quickly. But when the scan came back, it wasn't as positive as the thought. Now, it wasn't a disaster. It probably just set him back a game or potentially two. So I still expect Kieran Trippier to be back possibly by the end of the month. Maybe that Liverpool game, I would say. I can't 100% say that's true, but he's still on track to be back before the end of April, which is obviously a massive boost. And you'd hope Newcastle are safe by then, so he doesn't have to. There's no pressure on him to come in and just play a few games and get his fitness up. Callum Wilson, it's a difficult one with Callum Wilson because the club sort of, I think, downplayed how bad Callum Wilson's injury actually was. I said at the time when I was sitting next to Liam Kennedy in the press box, I said the way he went down, I had a feeling that would be a season ender. And the updates from Eddie Howe, it doesn't suggest that they're pushing Callum Wilson to be back. If Newcastle say are safe, which they will be, by the end of the season, then I wouldn't be surprised if Callum Wilson didn't play again this season. There's no reason to risk him. The only reason to play him would be for the players' sort of well-being, where the players desperate to come back. he wants to score goals. So maybe he might get a run out in that sense. But in terms of Newcastle objectives this season, there's no reason to rush back Callum Wilson. So yeah, we'll just have to say on Callum Wilson. But I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play again this season. Maybe he might play the final 2 or 3 games. But there's no need to rush him back. Get him right for the summer. Yeah, okay, the player wants to come back, but if it's not ready and Callum Wilson is not 100% fit, then there's no reason to bring him back. So yeah, that's the 2 injuries. I think with Kieran Trippier, you're likely to see him again this season. Callum Wilson, I doubt, but if he is to come back, it'll be probably the final month, which is the Man City, Arsenal, and Burnley games, I believe.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question of you guys here while we're talking about players? I spent 20 odd years of my life at Burnley, so they're a little bit of a second little club for me. And I've got a good mate on here who's a Burnley fan. Dan, I don't know if you know him at all, but Chris Wood. Now, you bought him, and he kind of. They said he weakened the Burnley squad by taking it, and obviously they were one of your competitors at that time for relegation. Or I said, I don't think you're going to go down now. I think you are safe. He's not exactly known. I mean, we had him at Leicester as well. He didn't really get a chance because we had David Nugent at the time, and then Vardy was breaking through. So unfortunately, it kind of clashed with that for the guy. I'm nothing against him, but he's not exactly a 20-goal a season striker, is he? Why was it a panic buy because of injuries?
Go on, Chris H. Go on.
Jordan may correct me here, but to me, Chris, I think we were desperate for a striker because obviously we found out that Callum Wilson was injured.
Yeah.
And I believe, and again, I could be wrong here, but this is just my own interpretation. I think we've probably gone to a few different clubs and they've turned around and said, no, either come back in the summer or no, we're not releasing him. Or they've turned around and said, oh, yeah, you can have him. And they've stuck an extra 10, 20, 30 million onto the price. And then we were informed by an agent that Chris Woods had a release clause. And I that's what I'm led to believe. And Jordan, again, jump in if I'm wrong, but I think that's why I think that's why we made the Chris Wood signing. And obviously, like you say, Chris, at the start, we did believe that it would weaken, Burnley's strike force. And to be fair, I was a little bit gutted actually when they went out and bought Weghorst from Wolfsburg for half the price. Because I did actually like Weghorst, and we were linked with him a number of years ago. And obviously he's a Dutch international. And to be fair, he made a really good start to his Burnley career, but it has petered out a little bit. So
definitely. I would say they've replaced one 8-goal a season striker with another one, if we're looking at it. I know, because we rushed into, when Fofana got injured for us in the pre-season, he was out for the whole season. The club acted very quickly, and we went and got a defender in straight away with it. Yeah, don't. It's like
people might forget that you signed him because he's barely kicked a ball for you, and there might be a reason for that.
Do you know what? I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, he's what you want in a defender. He's an international. He's 6'11", whatever he is. He's, as I say, he's come in at a time, and there was no way that when he came in, did Brendan probably think that he was going to be a starter and he was going to play as much as he did. But he was there because we'd lost Fofana. But then we went and lost Soyuncu, we lost Evans, our defenders were falling down, like Bryce Nickers on the wedding night. And he had to be thrown in. Now, I could say, from the start, he hadn't had time to settle in. Then he got injured. He's had a couple of good games in Europe for us. I want to see him next season because, like I say, we bought him as a squad player. We lost to West Ham. We were I think we were drawing with them. Or no, sorry, we drew with West Ham, I think it was. And Rodgers brought him on in about the 89th minute. And he got all the blame for the fact that West Ham went and scored the goal from a corner. But for me, Rodgers should take the blame because you don't change at that particular time just as you're going to take a corner. because everybody's then going like, well, who are you marking? Because I was supposed to be marking. It was all ridiculous. But I want to see him next season. But I think we'd very much did the same as you with that gentleman.
Yeah,
Vestergaard. Yes,
definitely.
what can I say?
Jordan, from your perspective, has Chris covered it all with regards to Chris Wood, or is there anything else you'd want to add on Leicester Chris's question about Wood?
No, it's a difficult debate with Chris Wood, because if you look at his Newcastle record, I think it's 2 goals in 11 games or 12 games, which on paper isn't great for a striker, especially a player you paid £25 million for. That was sort of enforced by the release clause. But if you look at Chris Wood's record as a Newcastle player, Newcastle have only lost three games. So do you judge it off that? Do you judge it the fact, Chris Wood might not be scoring, but he's contributing the team. He's working hard. He's especially when St. Maximin plays, Eddie Howe makes a big deal of the fact that Chris Wood tracks back, fills in for St. Maximin, who at times, well, most of the time doesn't track back. So if you look at his overall team contribution, then it's probably been a decent bit of business. You pay £25 million for a striker, you do expect a lot more in terms of goals, but he's came in and he's done a job. He was there to keep Newcastle in the Premier League. He hasn't done that for his goals, but he's done that for his his overall sort of selfless performances. So I can't fault him. He's a humble guy. He's came in. Maybe he might not be the best number 9 or certainly the best striker Newcastle's ever seen, but he's done a job. I'd expect really in the summer Newcastle will go out and sign a striker or two, and Chris Wood will probably become the Dwight Gale of this season, where he plays the odd moment there and then. So he came in, done a job. I like Chris Wood. Sort of like I'd compare him to the Daryl Murphy of the Championship. When Newcastle signed Daryl Murphy in the Championship.
Yeah, I agree.
Sign him for a season. Came in, scored some really important goals, got them promoted. Chris Woods came in, contributed to the team, scored a couple of goals, and Newcastle are going to stay up. So from that standpoint, gives Chris Wood some credit, but I think you've got to watch him. We all know he's got limitations. It's quite clear, but when Callum Wilson comes back, he'll be straight back in. But I've got a lot of time for Chris Wood. Give him credit. He's done a job for the club, and that's all you can ask from him.
Yeah.
I'll throw my sort of 2 pence in that. Chris Wood, he is there. He's there to do a job. But the key thing that I keep hearing from Eddie Howe is, and he alluded to it again on Friday in his interview after the game against Wolves, in that when Newcastle are not playing the type of football that he wants us to play as he sees us moving forward. The way we're playing right now is to do a job, which is to stay in the league. And that is what Chris Wood has been signed for. And Chris H and Jordan have alluded to exactly that. He's brought him in to do a specific job in order to keep us in the league. And to be fair, Ian McKenna just put a comment up, and it was a fantastic point in that he says, 26 million is F all these days. And if we stay up, I think it's around the 130 million mark, effectively what you recoup as a club by just staying in the Premier League. It varies based on where you finish in the league, but ultimately it is around that mark. Now, is 25 million, a waste of money when you get a guaranteed 130 million for us as a club? It even goes beyond that, Leicester, Chris. It goes beyond that for us, because what it does, it kind of guarantees our future projection of where we want to go. We've talked about this on numerous shows. We talked about it with Jordan on our transfer shows in January. Me and Chris have talked about it in previous away days earlier on in the season. If we were to get relegated this season, that would put our project back by at least 2 years. By staying in the league, it allows our projection of our project, of where we want to go and what we want to do in the next 3 to 5 years. It allows that to continue. So spending 25 million and buying out his contract to enable that to happen, for me, is a no-brainer. And I don't see it as a 25 million pound deal. We could go and sell him in the summer for 10, 15 million, and it's only a 10 million loss, which is even less. So it's not that big of a deal for us. in the grand scheme of things. But I can understand why fans outside of Newcastle would question that deal and question, because he's not scoring the goals, why we've paid.
I think Eddie Howe didn't he have him at Burnley, because Eddie Howe was a Burnley manager for a while, wasn't he?
I'm not sure if he was there at that point. I don't know.
I think he was at Leeds then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think.
But obviously, he ultimately knows the style, because Burnley have always kind of had that style of football. So if anything, Eddie Howe has learnt that style, and I think that's more of an evolution and a development in Eddie Howe's style of management, because he's learning to play different players that play different styles of football, and is able to incorporate that into his style of play. If anything, it just shows Eddie Howe's development as a manager, if anything, for me. But I'm mindful that we're going to move on to a crucial part in our away day show. But just before we get to that, there's another question, a fantastic question. To be fair, Tom Dixon said he came armed with questions tonight, and he did say he was going to bring some good questions in. And there's another good one here for Jordan and Ben. Well, it says Ben, but it's Chris. I think he was expecting Ben to be on the show. But for Chris and Jordan, it's 8 weeks till the transfer window opens. What players do you think will leave the club, and what players you expect Newcastle to sign in the summer? Just from your perspective, I'm assuming it's purely focused on Newcastle, but just an interesting one there. Jordan, I don't know if you want to go first for that one.
Yeah, it's a difficult one in terms of what players will go. Newcastle will go and spend money, and somehow there's no doubt about that. But I do think Eddie Howe's reluctant to have a complete overhaul. Just based on what he's saying, he said previously, only a few weeks ago, that he wants to keep the core group together. But they have got a lot of fringe players. There's players that aren't playing at the moment. Like, you've got the likes of Jeff Henrik, who, isn't at the club now and won't be next season. But yeah, I don't know, like likes of Jamal Lewis. I think there's a player there in Jamal Lewis. He's a player that was wanted by Liverpool before he signed for Newcastle, and showed good form before he got ruled out with a hamstring injury. And obviously Eddie Howe opted to bring in Matt Target, but I still think there's a player there with Jamal Lewis. But again, he's one that isn't in the team at the moment, so isn't in the 25-man squad at the moment. So what do you do with him? And then the likes of your Kieran Clark. Ian Clark's will go. Federico Fernandez, I think, will probably be one that goes. Great professional. Loved by a lot of people at the club. But I think there's next steps with Federico Fernandez that at the age of 32, 33, I think his body probably just can't take it anymore in terms of top flight football. And that's natural. That's just age. He's been a great servant for the club, and he'll go away with everyone's best wishes, I'm sure. And then you look in the midfield area, you've got Sean Longstaff out of contract at the end of the season. Personally, I'd give Sean Longstaff a new contract, but it's hard because Newcastle will probably go out and sign another centre midfielder in the summer, so that knocks Sean Longstaff back again. So does Sean Longstaff, for the good of his career, although it's his boyhood club, want to stay and be fourth or fifth choice centre midfielder? Because you'll have Shelvey who will stay. Eddie Howe's a big fan of Shelvey, Bruno, and then you've got Joe Linton, who's a newfound centre midfielder as well. So it's a very crowded area, that one. With that, Isaac Hayden will probably go. I don't think he'll kick a ball for Newcastle again. Again, another player that's been a great servant, but ultimately, when you look at the quality that Newcastle have got in midfield now, Isaac Hayden is a very limited Premier League midfielder, so he'll probably go. Dwight Gale, another one, possibly. Say Newcastle again will go out and sign a striker, so that knocks back Dwight Gale. And then, like the big one, I think probably the player that Newcastle will make some money off, because you think about the fringe players at Newcastle, there's not a lot of value on them really. But Miguel Almiron's probably a player that you can go and get 15 million for potentially. Yeah. I don't know if Ryan Fraser's injury, which I've seen a question come up there, so I'll quickly answer it now if that's all right.
Yeah.
About Ryan Fraser, I think Ryan Fraser might be out for a couple of weeks maximum. So it's a big chance for Miguel Almiron to obviously came on against Wolves and I thought performed really well. Was really bright in the final third, particularly when he came on and grafted to get to 3 points. There's a lot of defensive work, so if Ryan Fraser is to be out for a few weeks, Almiron will get his chance, and it's all about if Almiron can grasp his opportunity. I think this is a big period in Miguel Almiron's career at Newcastle. If he wants to have a long-term future at the football club, then he needs to impress in the final 7 games if he gets his chance. Eddie Howe's shown a reluctance to drop players when they're playing well. So if Miguel Almiron can perform well, you'll retain his place to the end of the season, and if Ryan Fraser is to return before then, we'll face a way to get back in. So yeah, a big period for Miguel Almiron. And I think if you're looking at sort of potential exit, he's maybe the biggest name at the moment. I'd probably sell him personally. It was excellent when he came in under Rafa Benitez when that half a season when it was the three amigos, if you like, the Rondon, Perez, who Chris is a big fan of, as I've heard, and Almiron as well. So that was the front three at Newcastle. He was excellent, but the only sort of good spell he's had since then was when Newcastle switched to the false 9 formation under Graham Jones. It worked for Miguel Almiron, but it didn't work for anyone else in the team. So it's a difficult one for Almiron. I hope he does, in the next few weeks, prove that he's got a future and prove that he's a player that Newcastle can rely on. But me personally, I'd probably sell him. But it's up to the player. It's completely up to the player. It's a big few weeks, few months coming up for him.
Do you know what, Jordan? Just before we go to Chris, I don't know if you probably haven't seen it, mate, but if you get a chance, watch our show that we did last night. I'm sure Pete was probably going to say this as well. It was called Squad Game rather than Squid Game. And do you know what, Jordan? It was dead funny, right? At the start of it, we were all being dead, dead. There it is, yeah, Squad Game. Do you know what, Jordan? We were being dead sensible, dead serious, and we were like, right, we can't get ahead of ourselves here. We're not going to, get rid of 10 players and sign 10 players and whatever. And you know what? We started going through the squad, and I made a list of 12 players. And you know what? I was being like very cautionary as well. I was like not just throwing names on the list for the sake of it. And honestly, I come up with 12 players, and I was thinking after the show, I was being careful there as well. So honestly, I'm a little bit. I was going to say worried. Worried's probably the wrong word. I would rather maybe say that I'm excited because, being honest, if we look into the summer, like you say, there's so many fringe players there that we either their time has gone and they should have gone a long time ago, or like you say, we can probably do with getting their wage off the wage bill. But yeah, 12 players we come to, and Pete, weren't we trying to be like a little bit sensible at least? But honestly, when you go through, we went through all the goalies, defenders, midfielders, strikers. And when we got to strikers, I was thinking, bloody hell, we're on like 10 here. And obviously, the likes of Dwight Gale we're expecting to go. And we had the exact same conversation you've just mentioned about Miguel Almiron, saying he's probably the player who's worth the most money. And it genuinely wouldn't surprise me if we went out in the summer, tried to get, a decent winger in or, a top-class midfielder, and whether the club who we're trying to buy off say, well, how about you throw Miguel Almiron in the deal? And I don't think we would, hesitate in doing that. I think we would.
Yeah, you could have an overhaul in the summer, absolutely. But I think the first summer transfer under the new owners, I don't think there will be a complete overhaul. I think there'll be 5 or 6 signings. But as you say, you've got a lot of deadwood to get off the books first. So much deadwood. These are players that Steve Bruce couldn't offload last summer, so they've got a big task on their hand. We can talk about incomings, which that's what everyone's excited about, but they've got a lot of work to do to get players off the books. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the club took the opportunity, maybe with a few players on last year's of the contracts, just terminated them potentially. I don't know.
I mentioned that.
Yeah, they've got such a big squad, and even in January they had to make room for the 5 signings that they signed in January. So you go and sign another 5 signings in the summer, you've got to get rid of another 5 players plus the players that have been left out of the squad as well. So it's a big task ahead. But I've got full faith that that we'll have a successful transfer window, and we'll be in a good position come the start of next season.
I agree. The one player I in the show that I mentioned about that was actually Dwight Gale, in that because nobody's been, he's had what, 3 managers now, and all 3 managers have tried to get rid of him, and actually instead of getting rid of him, he's actually had better terms on his contract. Within that time, he's not only stayed at the club, but he stayed at the club on better terms of his contract than he had previously, and that's like the biggest thing. And how are you going to get a 31, nearly 32-year-old, I think, to leave the club on the type of contract that he's on, because he's not going to get that contract anywhere else. But you're absolutely right in what you said, Jordan, in that we've got players that are not even in the 25-man squad that we need to ship out before we even look at players in the 25-man squad that we need to move out in order to bring that 5 or 6 in that you talked about. And I agree. I think there will be 5 or 6 players come in of absolute quality that will be better than what we've got in those positions currently. But it's going to be a really interesting point, and you know what, it would be great to have your opinion when we look at the squad game, maybe later on at the end of the season into the summer, and get your thoughts on it as things are unfolding, because it's a great discussion. It was a great show. If anyone's not seen it, watch it back from last night, the Squid Game. It's not Squid Game, Squad Game. Now, but what's Squid Game as well? Because Squid Game is fantastic. I'm giving Netflix a plug. Maybe they want to become a sponsor of Loaded Clicks Q. We'll discuss that after the show. Anyway, at this point now, it is time to get a few stats. And there's only one way on away days we get our stats, and it's through this man here.
Evening, lads.
Here he is, as always. Double O Stato, the main man. Keith Cole, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. But I'm slightly confused by today's night show. There's something different. Pete, where's the cap?
Yeah, you know what? You're not the only person to mention that tonight. Look, the cap is here, and it was going to come on, but in anticipation of me travelling north to Newcastle tomorrow with the family for a few days, I just thought, you know what, I need to get a haircut, and it got to the show, and I thought, why have the cap? So I got rid of it. Just went without, and not the only one to notice, but I just thought it would be a nice little change. But we need some stats, Keith, and I'm praying that there's some good stats coming our way with regards to the Newcastle Leicester games in years gone by. So, have you got anything good to share with us?
Yeah, I've got lots of stats here tonight. I've got some head-to-head stats to start off with between Newcastle and Leicester. Then I've got some stats on the managers, and also Leicester players and Newcastle players as well. So starting with some stats for head-to-head. Newcastle's record in this fixture since 94-95, they've played 31. They've won 13, they've drawn 6, and they've lost 12. So fairly even stats there over the course of almost a 30-year period. However, Newcastle have lost 11 of the last 14 games they've played against Leicester in all competitions since 2014. So something of a bogey team, a terrible record for Newcastle in the latter years of the Ashley era, it has to be said. Newcastle have also got a better record away to Leicester in recent seasons at the King Power Stadium. 3 wins and 4 defeats out of 7 compared to the record at St James's Park, where they've lost 5 in a row in the league alone. Eddie Howe, his record as a manager in games against Leicester, he's managed 18, he's won 3, he's drawn 6, and he's lost 8, so less than a point a game average for Eddie Howe in games against Leicester. Brendan Rodgers, his record as a manager in games against Newcastle, he's managed 16 games, won 8, drawn 3, and lost 5, so over 1.5 a game. This fixture has produced a total of 82 goals in league fixtures, Premier League fixtures since 94-95, 47 for Leicester, 35 for Newcastle. And also, as well, Leicester have got the better defensive record in this fixture, 11 clean sheets compared to Newcastle, 7 clean sheets. Don't worry, Pete, I am going to get positive again. There's only been 3 goalless draws as well in 31 games since 94-95. There's always goals in this fixture. Remember the 4-3 with a Shearer hat-trick. The last draw in the fixture, believe it or not, was 2003-4. The 0-0, I believe, at the Old Walker Stadium. So the most common goal scorers for Leicester against Newcastle, Jamie Vardy with 5 and 11. I think you were saying earlier that he's not due not to play in that fixture on Sunday, which is good news for Newcastle. But James Maddison, 4 goals in 7 games against Newcastle, and he scored at the King Power earlier this season against Newcastle. Chris Wood, he's scored 5 goals in 30 games against Leicester City. So fingers crossed he continues that goal scoring run he started on Friday. Interesting stat here. Leicester's record in games following European competition this season. They've played 10 games. They've won 5, they've drawn 2 and lost 3. So they have lost a couple of games, and I think the last game they lost was against Arsenal after they've been in Europe last month. And Leicester are in good form, perhaps some of the best form of the season in the Premier League recently. They've played 6, they've won 4, they've drawn 1, and they've lost 1. And that game was to Arsenal at the Emirates.
Not bad at all.
Interesting.
Not bad at all. Some great stats there, Keith. Absolute pleasure as always. Just before we move on, Chris H, I think you need to go at this point, don't you?
Yeah, I've got to go, sadly. But Chris, it was lovely to meet you. Keith, always a pleasure. Yeah, really nice to meet you, mate. And hopefully we'll have you back on next season. I hope.
Yeah, you're safe, mate. You're not going to go down. Don't worry. There's a hell of a lot worse teams than you out there now, I'll tell you.
Yeah. No, I agree, mate. I agree. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you next season, and hopefully, next time we come to King Power, we'll have to try and give you the shout, because me and Pete were at the King Power. So hopefully next season we'll have to give you the shout out, mate, when we're coming down. Yeah,
please do.
Keith, always a pleasure, mate. Nice catching up. And Jordan, great to have you back on, mate. Nice to share the screen with you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care, Chris.
Take care.
See you later. Great to have Chris on. A huge part of the away days, but you've left us with some fantastic stats there, and that kind of transition is nicely into the next part, which is the predictions for the team lineup. So, look, we've gone from a Leicester point of view, and I asked Chris to put his team together. And this is interestingly for me when I saw this. This is his team that he thinks will be on the game on Sunday. So, Chris, you got for an interesting team there, a number of starters, not necessarily in the team. Just talk us through why you think this could potentially be the lineup.
Well, this was the team that played against Palace, and we played really, really well in that game. So, there isn't a lot of reason for changing something if it's working. But we've got to take into account, there were 7 changes to that team. And, there's players there, like, the Justins and what have you, that haven't played for a long time because of injuries that are coming back. But we've had we've got the game tomorrow night to take into account. And one thing with Brendan Rodgers is he doesn't rush players back. We saw that with Maddison when he came back from recovery. It took him a long time to get back in and get his form back, but Rodgers didn't rush him back. because playing for 15 minutes, then 30, and he'd ease players back in. And I think, you're looking at, there's probably, Schmeichel, possibly Shrewsbury Hall, Maddison, that will start tomorrow night. So there'll be a lot of changes, but then he'll change it back simply so he can refresh it up. And we've not been able to do that all season. We've now, like I say, got the squad, got the fit players that we can move it around. And, you can see the players that he's left out. You can say, yeah, of course, they're left out for PSV. But that team played very well against Palace. And if you're worried about Vardy, then, be worried a little bit about Daka because he's got a very bit of speed behind him as well.
No, it's an interesting.
And the thing is, sorry, just to say as well, is there you see Mendy as the defensive midfielder. I mean, I feel so sorry for that guy. At one point, he was our most expensive purchase when we bought him.
Yeah.
And last season, we had Ndidi injured at the start, and Mendy came in, and he did a great job for him. He really did. He's probably not as good a tackler as Ndidi, but he's a better distributor of the ball than Ndidi.
Yeah.
He was left out of all the squads at the start of the season, which was, I felt so sorry for the guy, but, we've got to cut it down to 25 and what have you. He's now come back into the Premier League squad, but he's not in the European squad, which is why he's sort of featuring in this. We nearly lost him in January. We might lose him in the summer, but I hope the guy stays because, like I say, he's a great player to have in your squad.
Yeah. Definitely. And there was a little bit of a spelling mistake there. It just say Mandy. It's meant to say Mendy. I take responsibility for that because I
hadn't noticed that. If he hadn't said anything. Do you know something we don't? Do you know something about him that we don't?
There's a few in the chat that are saying it might be Amanda Stabley trying to get into the Leicester team sheet in order to give us a chance at St James's Park. But
I didn't realise those rumours had got out, to be honest with you.
Well, nothing gets past us Newcastle fans, that's for sure. They caught on that very, very quickly. But Jordan, I asked you to put your team together, your predicted lineup. So this is what you've gone for. I don't know if you want to talk to us through your lineup. It is pretty similar to the team that started against Wolves.
Yeah, just the one change I'd expect for Ryan Fraser. I've missed the game after his hamstring injury early doors against Wolves. I think you can tell by the players' reaction. He came off the pitch sort of in tears, I think, or certainly had his head in his hands. So I think that suggests that he could be out for a few weeks. But we'll get a further update on him from Eddie Howe on Friday, who's doing his press conference at 9 o'clock. But yeah, just on that, I'm just presuming that Fraser missed the game, and as I mentioned so earlier, Miguel Almiron will come in for him and get an opportunity. The midfield stays the same. I think Joe Willock will probably still be out. If not, he'll make the bench. Joe Willock's went for an injection in his knee. Apparently, he's had the problem for a few months now, and it's just trying to deal with the pain. So, depending on how quickly Joe Willock's reacted to his injection, he could be back in the squad, but he certainly won't be in the start 11. And then, just I think a surprise one really that's taken me by surprise in recent weeks. Anyway, is Emil Kraft. It was one of them where when Kieran Trippier got injured, we were all calling for Javier Manquillo to play. But when we got back to the Wolves game, I was actually calling for Kraft to start, and I never thought I'd say them words because I've been a big critic of Emil Kraft over his time at Newcastle. But give him credit, under Eddie Howe, he's been quite dependable actually. There's still at times where I think defensively he's aware of where he is on the pitch, but you can't fault his effort and commitment. In the Wolves game, he pulled off a great block. I can't remember who took the shot, but it was a block midway through the second half where he charged them down, That just summed up his performance for me. It was a very strong performance from Kraft. So it's a strange one because, as I say, I mentioned Javier Manculla. We all thought he was going to deputise in place of Kieran Trippier, but it's Emil Kraft as the man that stepped up. So full credit to him.
Definitely, and I would agree. He's really kind of stepped it up within his role in the team at this moment in time, and I don't think anyone would like to kind of question him starting in this particular team at the moment. It's fully justified and fully earned. And look, we'll open this up. I don't know if you guys can see this on the screen. Can you see the tactics board on the screen?
High tech.
Yeah. I can now.
So we've got the team here, and obviously this is the starting lineup. There's one player missing on there, and I'm not particularly sure why. So it is Tielemans, and I will add that in a second. But Tielemans is here, although his name's not there. But this is the team that Chris put together, and this is the team that obviously is Jordan's projected team. And this is it, and this is the key with Kraft here. Very solid in his position, gets up, gets down, but the lack of sort of big mistakes in the game, I think, have been the real key for him. And what we have here, and I don't know if you would agree, Keith and Jordan, is that we have a real workman's-like right-hand side of the pitch with Miggy and Kraft and the team. They work hard. They'll run themselves into the ground. They might not be technically the best on the ball, but they're certainly improving. Miggy in particular was liking to getting into these little spots in the game where the goal was chalked off. He was kind of in this position. Bruno's the one that finds him in this position. He's able to link the play, but also play quite wide as well. So he's becoming a little bit more versatile in that role on the right-hand side. So he's bringing a little bit something different to his game. This will be interesting here. And I always talk about Wood because Wood likes to occupy the two centre-backs. And if it is Serenchu and Amati, they are quite physical centre-backs, but that's the kind of game that Wood likes because he likes to occupy those to allow the likes of Joe Linton to get into those little areas. Bruno will be looking to, like he did against Wolves, he likes to get into these little areas on the right-hand side to be able to get into gaps, to get into the box, either whip balls into the box and cause havoc that way. And that's the Wood role. He likes to just occupy those to really kind of cause some problems here. One of the biggest features in the game, I think from a Leicester point of view, and please, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Leicester like their wing play and they've got pace. Justin and Thomas bring undoubtedly an abundance of pace down this side. And this is one thing that Target and Kraft and almost ASM, although he's less defensive. So Joe Linton tends to fit in and supply that little bit of support there. But that's what they're going to need to be aware of because Justin has got pace to burn and he likes to get forward. It could also allow ASM to get in the other way. So it's something they're going to have to be aware about. But Justin likes to get forward and so does Thomas. Both got fantastic delivery. But on top of that, is that these little pockets of space here that Maddison likes to pick up. We've talked about that he likes a goal against Newcastle. We saw it the game at the King Power where he got into this little pocket of space and conceded and won the penalty from Lascelles in that little spot. We need to be careful of that. And another bit of pace in here is Daka. Now, for me, Daka's not been as, maybe as the type of signing that I expected him to be. I expect him to play more games at this point, but he knows where the goal is, and this will be a key feature in the game.
Just be careful. Yeah, I mean, Daka's it's his first season, and I think this is the problem with a lot of clubs and fans and what have you, is that you can buy a player like Fofana, let's say, and you can throw him in and he swims and it's brilliant. But most players, he's come over. It's a different culture. It's a different type of game. It does take these signings a while to settle in. I mean, we're still waiting for Perez to settle in, of course. But Daka, he knows where the goal is. He can take players out by attacking and players have got to follow him. And don't forget, he did get 4 in one game against in the Europa League. So he knows, he can do the job for us.
No, you're right, and I do think he'll grow into a top player. You're right. Some players just need a little bit more time to really settle into the game and really kind of, ease themselves into English football, because it is very much a different type of football. If you can be successful in the Premier League, ultimately you can be successful anywhere, because it's so high impact, so high intensity. It does have that about it. But the one thing that we have to be worried about here is that pace in and behind, because he will stretch to the defence. Burn and Shaw are very, very organised, and they are probably, Jordan, Keith, would you agree they've been our best centre back pairing for a long time now?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I like Jamal Lascelles. Again, keep talking about excellent servants, and he's been one of them. But it's been sort of no coincidence that it is a surprise in a sense, because when Newcastle signed Dan Burn in January, it wasn't sort of the marquee signing that everyone was, a marquee centre back signing everyone was hoping for. But the results speak for themselves. Dan Burns came in and done very, very well. There's been a few instances over the last few games, probably when they lost them 3 games in a row, where at Tottenham he got the absolute run around by Spurs' players, but he wasn't the only one. And then there was late lapse of concentration against Chelsea for Kai Havertz's goal, and then that goal from Alex Iwobi as well, where he just got done by a sort of a simple touch, and Alex Iwobi was for own goal. So you can see, why Dan Burn, calls for Dan Burn for England. You can see why he hasn't got to that level. But we're talking about players that have came in, been signed to keep the club in the division, and that's what Dan Burn has done. Fabian Schär as well, as I think Newcastle fans always rate him, but always question him defensively. I think there was always the question that I remember, that can Fabian Schär play in a back two? Under Rafa Benitez, he was always sort of better on that back 5 on the right hand side, where he's allowed space to come out and dribble with the ball, pick a pass, into the wide area. But obviously, he's proven everyone wrong, and he can play in a defensive too. He's only missed 1 game since Eddie Howe arrived at the club, so he's been a real mainstay. So yeah, both for Dan Burn's side as well, he's very, very good on the ball actually. So you've got a centre back pair in there who have been solid defensively and also quite good with the feet. And it's probably a testament to them, that the fact that Jamal Lascelles is the club captain, and he's barely kicked the ball since February. So the centre back pairing of them, of Burn and Schär, it's no coincidence that Newcastle have been more solid defensively.
Definitely, I would agree. But that's the key, is that they are very much well organised and well drilled. But they're going to have to. One of the things I've really liked about Burn and Shaw, and I don't know if any of you guys have noticed watching them, is that they like to face up their strikers. So strikers that like to run in and behind, what you tend to find is either Shaw or Burn gets close, touch tight to them. So they can't then play that over the top type of game that Daka likes. They do I imagine it would be the same with Vardy, who also likes to get in and behind if he was fit. But what they do, they face them up, so they're facing towards their own players, back to goal. And some players are really good with that. Chris Wood likes to play that way. That's his style. But for Patson Daka, that's not necessarily his game. So it's just something to watch out for, is that they'll try and get touch tight to him. So anything in between his feet, they'll be right in and behind him, so he can't turn. They'll make it difficult. Dan Burn's the kind of the master at that. I would say Shaw's probably a little bit more aggressive in his kind of touch tightness. He'll get right in and behind. He'll leave his knee or leave his foot in to make sure that he's kind of sending a message to Daka, and it's to throw him off his game. They did that really well with Fabio Silva on Friday night, and I fully expect it to be exactly the same again. But this is the way in which it's set up now, is kind of the game in which it will be set up there. You'll see Joe Linton push on with Bruno, and you'll see Shelby in that little sitting role that will kind of dictate the play from deep. But you'll also see, from Chris's point of view, Tielemans likes to get forward. He likes to get forward, likes to shoot from distance and get into the box. Drewsbury Hall is doing something very, very similar. So that battle there with Bruno G and Joe Linton will be crucial from that point of view. And it's a case of, for us, can Alan Saint-Maximin really turn on the style and cause some problems the other way and make Justin go backwards rather than look to play his own game and go forwards? And that'll be the interesting thing to see. But it's a really, really good matchup. Potentially, if that's the lineup, we've got one or two that could potentially change in between that. But that's just something that we're going to keep an eye on as it kind of ticks on from this point of view. But it's going to be a really, really interesting game to see how it all comes about. And there are little pockets in there for both teams that I think could really sort of benefit from that, with the likes of Daka and Maddison. Lookman can't be discarded as well because he's a good player, quick, has an eye for goal. So we're going to have to be really on our game, in our work rate in that midfield. So I'll go back to the midfield. These three are going to be the key, as they were against Wolves, in that they're going to have to leave everything out there in terms of their work rate to keep Leicester at bay, because they are a very, very good attacking team. In my eyes, better than Wolves have got available to them. So again, we're at home. The fans are behind us. They are a 12th man. We've got War Flags that are putting on fantastic, amazing displays. And Chris, you'll see that on Sunday. And they're really, really, the fan-led support for on match days has been, it's been absolute top-notch. And that support makes a massive difference to these players and the manager. So again, just a little something there, additional to kind of have a look at with regards to the build-up of the game. So before we get to the predictions to kind of round up the show, there are a couple of questions here that I just wanted to ask you guys. So I'll go one Jordan, one for Chris from that perspective. So Tom, again, with another question. We've been linked with Mikel Merino, ex-Newcastle United midfielder. Do you think he might come back to Newcastle, or do you think that's one where he might go off to pastures new elsewhere? He's also been linked with Man City too. Yeah,
I was just about to say that there. He's been linked as Fernandinho's replacement, hasn't he? Over the last few days, but no, I don't expect Moreno to return to Newcastle anytime soon. I think he's had his time. Was obviously a really good player for Newcastle up until Newcastle made his spell permanent. Because he initially had signed on loan, didn't he, from Borussia Dortmund? But yeah, I think that ship has sailed. Obviously, done great things with Real Sociedad in La Liga. Built up a profile for himself. We'll probably get a decent move somewhere in the summer, but no, I don't think it'll be Newcastle.
Interesting. I think the money that's on offer, I think the links will be looking elsewhere. I think you're right, Jordan. Chris, from your point of view, from Tom again, what are your thoughts on Jamie Vardy? Do you think he will leave Leicester City in the future? Interesting question, because there's a couple of Leicester fans that were saying in the last couple of days, because of his injuries, that this is maybe marking the beginning of the end of Jamie Vardy at Leicester, and maybe even his career. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the guy keeps defying his age and goes on and on and on. But we knew this time was coming. I mean, this is why we've bought Daka in, because Daka will be his replacement. And I've said this for a long, long time, and it actually happened against Burnley when we played them recently. Problem is because he's older, he's still got the speed, he's still got the talent, but when he gets the injuries, it takes him a lot longer to recover because of his age. So that's the problem. So I don't think he will leave Leicester. His family's settled. He got all the kids are settled. He has got other interests outside, like his American football club that he owns. So he may end up going over there, a bit like Christian Fuchs. But what you'll see, I think, in the short term, and it's probably come one season earlier than I probably thought it might do, is that you will see Leicester starting with either Daka or Inacho, depending which way we're playing up front. And then probably in about 70 minutes, when, hopefully the defenders are a bit knackered and a bit tired, we'll take them off and we bring Jamie Vardy on. And if you're a defender for whichever team and you've been chasing Daka about or trying to fight Inacho off for 70 minutes and you look over there, oh, fuck me, Jamie Vardy's coming on now, and he can play in those 20-minute bursts, and that would extend his playing career, I think, by a couple of seasons. But yeah, the fact of him playing 90 minutes, that is coming towards the end.
It is an interesting one, and he's been a fantastic striker. He's like,
the guy. I mean, there was all those rumours about them making the film about his life. I mean, I don't know that that'll ever happen. I doubt it. But what a story! When he won the FA Cup, he's the only player ever to have played in every single round of the FA Cup at some time in his career. I mean, we took a gamble on him from £1 million from a non-league club. I know they just got promoted. He nearly gave it all up to go and be a rep abroad in Ibiza because it just wasn't working out for him when he first signed. It was a huge step up, from non-league to the Championship. But the club, and I think this is the thing with him, the club stuck by him. And I know that the Vichai, when he was alive, rest in peace, he put his arm around him. He sort of talked him through it, and I think that bond, and people say about the bond at Leicester, but I think there is a bond all the way through the club, not just the team. And yeah, he has been. Let's face it, it's the best £1 million we've ever spent.
Definitely. Who would have thought that he would have, signing for £1 million? He's in a position to score 100 plus goals in the Premier League, to win the Premier League title, to win the FA Cup, the as you put, the English Super Cup, the Community Shield. He's got them. Who would have thought at non-league he would have been in that position?
What Vardy offers to people, a bit like what Leicester offered to people, really, is hope. That never presume that your career is over, because he's proved what he's done at his age is more than Harry Kane's done, and he started when he was, sort of youngster in the top leagues. I can remember at one point we had Vardy and Kane both on the bench at Leicester. We had him on loan. But you think mid-20s or my career's over. It isn't. It isn't. Look at what Jamie Vardy's been able to do, and look at Leicester as a club. What we've achieved over the years. It's giving other clubs hope and players hope that miracles can happen.
Definitely. No, I 100% agree with that, and hopefully many more to come. Jordan, and there's another question here for you. It says, Jordan, they say never meet your heroes. How's it been working with Liam Kennedy? Obviously, Liam Kennedy, friend of Loaded HQ. How's it been working with him at Newcastle World?
Well, first of all, I'd love to know who asked that question. I don't know if it's someone I potentially know, or maybe it is just a random guy who generally is interested about Liam Kennedy. But no, he's I've said that many times before. Liam is a top guy, top boss. Learning a lot from him. So a hero, would I call him a hero? No, I wouldn't feel Liam's ego like that. So, but yes, to answer the question, it's been a pleasure working with him so far.
Definitely. He's a great guy, and I'm sure we'll have him on back on Loaded HQ with yourself, Jordan, at some point in the future, that's for sure. But another one here from Paul Gallant. It says, hi Jordan, how many seasons before you think we'll have 73,000 or so at St James's Park? I ask because I'm coming up for the Crystal Palace game, Strawberry Place area. My nephew tried for the Liverpool tickets and have gone this morning. I know that Paul has really been trying to get tickets to get to games at St James's Park, and I know that the Liverpool tickets are on sale, and I think are already sold out, if I'm right in thinking. They went like hotcakes today. Richie, that's part of the channel, I think he was on for a couple of hours trying to get tickets, and he was like 248th in the queue, and had to wait in order to get his tickets for the home game. So going back to the point, when do you think there'll be an extension of St James's Park?
Yeah, well, I know the new owners are looking into it, but I think there's a few things they've got to do first, because there was a sale of Strawberry Place a few years ago under Mike Ashley. So I don't know if the new owners are trying to find a way of potentially buying that back. So there's a lot to do before they do extend the stadium. Timescales, I'm generally not sure. I wouldn't want to give one just in case it's wrong. But what we're doing is that Newcastle won't be moving from St James's Park. The new owners have already confirmed that, and I'm really happy about that. I wouldn't have been against building the stadium elsewhere if it was for the benefit of the football club. But St James's Park was literally one of the heartbeats of the football club. We've had so many special memories there. It's been a forever part of our history. So I'm delighted that Newcastle are staying at St James's Park, because as I've seen over the last few months with the atmosphere, it really is a special place. And watching from the press box, seeing the war flags, it gives me sends shivers down my spine every time. I absolutely love it. Atmosphere is the best it's been for years. So yeah, long may it continues. And imagine if say in a few years' time they do get 73,000 stadium, what an unbelievable view that'll be. But yeah, I'm not sure when that'll happen. There's obviously a demand for it, maybe quicker than what the club would expect. As we've seen with the Liverpool tickets, I've seen a lot of reaction online about that. Fans sort of really frustrated at the ticketing website. So I'd imagine Newcastle will make strides to make that better, and then we'll just see where it goes from there. But I can't give a time scale on it. Sorry, Paul.
No, it's like I say, I think that's all up in the air for the reasons you've just said, Jordan. Is that the priorities are elsewhere at the moment. It is a massive rebuild job with Newcastle United. It's been left to kind of fester for so long. So lots to do at the club, but I understand the frustrations, and actually seeing some of the comments on social media about the frustrations about the Liverpool tickets is the fact that for lots, when the tickets come on sale, people are at work and people are not in a position to be able to just log on and wait in a queue for 2 hours because of their own commitments, and they're missing out on the fact that they've got other commitments that they have to be able to do. And that's part of the frustration as well. And they're looking at, is there an easier process? And I think the Newcastle supporters trust earlier on, or I think at the back end of that last week, earlier on this week, met with the owners and they had a discussion around this. And it's something that they are looking at to work with the club. So watch this space. Hopefully, by the end of this season, or certainly in view to next season, that there is a better process in place. But yeah, Paul, understand your frustrations, but keep chugging on, and hopefully there'll be a better way in order for the tickets to be kind of shown from that point of view. Just last couple, #9talks. Hope you do. How you doing, Dom? Hope you're well. Because what happens to Jordan down south, Pete? That was the original YouTube channel that I was on before I went on to NUFC Matters and before I moved on to Loaded with Clinton. Clinton is fantastic, and ultimately, back end of last season, Clinton then focused on his other non-league grassroots channel. So he's got Grassroots TV. If you haven't checked it out on YouTube, check it out. And he does a lot of work visiting grassroots football and taking videos and speaking to people within grassroots, within that area of football and that level of football. And he's very, very passionate about that, which meant he didn't have time as much for Geordie's Down South. So myself and Funby, obviously we haven't been together for a while. I'm sure we'll get back together at some point, but it's a great question, and I do miss the Geordie's Down South boys because it was a great to have a chat with them, and we had some good links. Keith, you were part of it. This is how we met, because you used to join our shows and
yeah,
for your
absolutely Love Geordie's down south, and Fumby and Clinton and some of the other guys that appeared as well. Occasionally Marv and MK and people like that when they used to drop in as well every now and again. The one thing I would say though, I mean, it'd be great for you to come back at some point. It was particularly good in the last year or so after Newcastle got beat, because Clinton was quite unique. 40 was quite unique in his responses when and maybe because Newcastle are doing so well, maybe 40 doesn't feel like he's got to get a lot off his chest as much.
Yeah, he was very, very vocal. Clint was with regards to Newcastle when they were in their sort of like their lowest moments. So yeah, he's probably celebrating a little bit too much at the moment. Now we're in a position and doing well, so maybe doesn't feel the need to pull out his shows anymore. But we'll see. I'm sure we'll get a show back up in the future. Couple of last questions. Question for all of you really, but we'll start with you, Chris. A great question from Simon Rudd, one of our sponsors of the show. It says, who would you rather lose, Tielemans or Maddison in the summer? Do you think both will stay next season? So, if you want to keep it to a one-word answer, please feel free to do so.
It's like asking who's my favourite child, isn't it? I can't answer that.
Nah, I didn't think so. Okay, I'm going to word this slightly differently to Jordan and Keith. Who do you think will leave in the summer? Bearing in mind Maddison was closely linked to Arsenal last summer. Who do you think will leave?
He wasn't, though. He wasn't. It was all paper talk.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Jordan, who do you think? Maddison, Tielemans?
Yeah, I think Tielemans might go. To be honest, what, he have a year left on his contract? Doesn't sound like he's going to sign another one. Will Leicester sell the player for a sizable offer comes in for him? He'll be linked with every top 6 club in the Premier League, I'd imagine, in the summer. But it's all about if someone tables an offer. But yeah, I think Tielemans might go. Unbelievable player. Established himself as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League for me. So we'll just have to see what happens in the summer. I think there'll be more interest in Tielemans than there is Maddison.
Fair enough. Same thoughts, Keith?
I think Jordan's hit on a point there. I think, in terms of the practicalities, when contracts run down, some of the better clubs, they look at it practically and they look at the options and get them out the door, don't they? As opposed to let them go on a free. So I would say Tielemans. I think Maddison's just proves himself so valuable to Leicester over the years, the amount of goals he gets and the amount of contributions. I could still see Maddison still at the club next season. My question would be, to counter that question, would be, where would Tielemans go? Where would you actually see Tielemans go off to in the Premier League if he stays?
I think we touched on that at the start of the show. He wants Champions League football, and that's why he's not making a decision until the summer, because he's not going to sign for a club and then them not be able to offer him Champions League football. And I mean, the other day, as I said earlier, they were linking, Manchester United and Arsenal were leading the race to get him. Well, paper talk, and he may go to one of them, but I think he's going to, he'll wait till the end of the season. And if neither of those clubs get top 4, which, let's be honest with you, I don't think either of them will now, why would he go there apart from money? And he wants to go to a club that is going to give him the football, not just the money. And it might not even be a Premier. I mean, everybody's saying, he's going to stay in the Premier League. Why? What does the Premier League offer that a Barcelona, Real Madrid, a Bayern Munich, or something like that can't offer him? Nothing really. If it's a Champions League club, then you're in the sort of driving seat to get him.
I think that's a fair point. And just before we round off with our last question, it says, how long do you think Brendan Rodgers will be at Leicester for?
A lot longer than earlier on in the season when nobody wanted him. When he was doing well last season, he was supposed to be again. The paper talk. To be honest with you, I don't know why they just don't recycle it all into toilet paper. But he was supposed to be going to Man United. He was supposed to be going to Spurs. We went and got Brendan Rodgers, and we upset a lot of Celtic people because we wanted him to come early before the end of the season, and I think that's what beat off a lot of Celtic fans. But he learnt more about that club in those last 10 home games than he would have done from a few pre-season friendlies. 10 Premier League games. He's then come in. He's good with the youth, and we've been talking about our players earlier. There's a young players coming through the squad. We've got the amazing, new training facility. Thank you, Manchester United, for the Harry Maguire money that paid for that. But we've got that in place. We've got the youngsters coming through, and this is the trouble with clubs these days. And you look at the likes of Man United. Managers are not given a chance to see it through. We've signed Brendan Rodgers on, with an idea, with a plan that he can carry through. All right, some of it may have come a bit early, who knows? But why get rid of, you get a manager in and then say, all these people that wanted Rodgers out earlier in the season because he wasn't doing very well. I wasn't one of them. I've never wanted him to leave. But, if he goes, you then get a new manager in who then says, I don't like all these players. So he gets rid of all those players, if he can, and gets in a whole new set of players, which you've then got to bed in. You then got to get them playing to the right sort of system. And he probably has a different formation ideas. And so you've just wasted 3 years of Brendan Rodgers building this up to start again, if you like, and there's no reason for him to go. If we were like, Everton or something like that, then it's different, but we've not had if you consider everything, can take everything into account, we've not had a bad season. He's got an amazing, if you saw the scenes after the FA Cup final, how many other managers would have been, could you ever have imagined a Newcastle manager going up and hugging Mike Ashley? They'd have probably gone up and strangled him, but they wouldn't have been hugging him on the pitch afterwards. The relationship they've got is great. And Rodgers, he left Celtic, without completing things, as they say. I don't think he wants to leave Leicester too early because then he's got a bit of a reputation of jumping ship very quickly. But the question is, if he goes, who would we replace him with?
That's true.
That could do what he can do. He's taken a lot of criticism this season. And, it's only now that we're looking back and going, yeah, maybe it wasn't his fault. Maybe it was this, whatever. So I hope he'll be here another couple of seasons. And contracts mean nothing, but yeah, get him an extension signed, and then, let's be honest with you, clubs change managers like most of us change our underwear these days, don't we? If you think how much the likes of Chelsea have spent on, and Watford have spent on compensation money, they could have probably bought an entire new squad with that. But there we go. But no,
Man United since Fergie left,
Oh, what a joke that club's become. You know what I mean? But no. So hopefully, I hope to see him there for a lot longer yet. Whether any manager will ever be the next Fergie or the next Wenger and be there for sort of 20 odd years, I don't know. But I hope he stays with us because he's done so much for us.
It's definitely one to watch. But yeah, there's an opportunity for Brendan to really kind of sort of nail his flag to the mast and set down roots with how he builds next season. That's for sure. But yeah, someone just mentioned that Leicester obviously as well are looking to expand the stadium, which has been talked about. Ian McKenna says you can change your underwear once a year.
Not that often, Ian. Not that often.
No, definitely. And someone said you can take your rivals and get Bruce. But we're not going to be talking about Bruce as such from this point of view. Just the last one for me. Joy's Down South season review. Let's see if that can possibly happen. And then Uggy, if you haven't seen Darwin Núñez's goal, he scored another goal tonight, a fantastic goal at Anfield. Do you think he's a realistic target? Look, I pray that he is. And I've said it before. In the last week, I've said on shows that I've been on that I'm worried about the goals that he's scoring. The more goals that he scores, the more I worry, because it means that other top teams are looking at him. He's just a tremendous talent, and he scored another goal again. Are we linked with him? And I think Jordan may well confirm this. Yes, we are linked with him. I think we were in January as well, and it's a serious player that we're looking at. But I think, it's going to be a difficult deal to do. It's going to be an expensive one, that's for sure. But he would completely revamp our forward line and be instantly one of the top young talents in the Premier League, that's for sure. So, fingers crossed on that one. He doesn't score too many more goals between now and the end of the season, and people forget about him, so we can snap him up for a reasonable price in the summer. But guys, massive thanks for you all joining. Just before you leave, we'll go through predictions of what we think is going to be at, say, 4:30, 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So Chris, we'll start with you. What are your predictions for Sunday?
I've actually gone on my show on a 3-1 to Leicester. I just think we are getting the players back now. We're getting the players fit. We're hitting a good bit of form, and hopefully the Newcastle that turned up against Tottenham will come out on Sunday, and I'll take a 3-1.
3-1. Interesting. Jordan, what we thinking? We beat the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, myself and my hero Liam Kennedy will be in the press box. Prediction: it's a tough one because Newcastle tend to lose against Leicester at home, but just with the sort of momentum Newcastle have behind them at home, the crowd, the 12th man, the build-up, the atmosphere, the fact they haven't been beaten at home this year, I'll go for a 2-2 draw. 2-2,
yeah.
I would say I'd sooner we were playing the old Newcastle than the current Newcastle.
I'm glad you're playing against the current Newcastle. I'm going to be honest. Keith, finally, your prediction?
Well, I was sort of thinking before that Leicester could easily sort of make this a 3-1. Just before Christmas Day, I was thinking this could be a 3-1 to Leicester. But runs don't go on forever. And Newcastle's awful run against Leicester at St James's Park has to come to an end. 8 years is a long time to go without a win at Leicester. At St James's Park. And I'm hopeful that Chris Woods will continue his goal scoring form, and Newcastle will continue their winning sequence, and we'll get another 1-0 win. That's what I'm hopeful on Sunday. And you're talking about sort of memories and anniversaries. Well, pretty much 4 years ago to the day, Newcastle actually beat at St James's Park another one of the bogey teams who've got a terrible home record against Arsenal 2-1 in the 2017-18 season. So hopefully we'll get a similar sort of bounce as well after Leicester have had a tough match in Europe tomorrow night, and maybe even extra time tomorrow night.
That's the big one. That is the big one that will just, like you say, depends how we react to whatever result we get tomorrow night. Definitely. Can I just ask a quick question, if you don't mind, before we shoot? Yeah. Because I always do I've just started doing watch-alongs for the shows because I live down south, so I don't always get to the grounds. And when I do them, I like to have, say, me and then a fan from the other team rather than sort of two Leicester fans. So it's a bit of banter and a bit of fun. So if any Newcastle fan isn't going to the game tomorrow, and I know it's probably half of Newcastle are, but if any Newcastle fan isn't going to it and they want to come on and do the watch along with me tomorrow, I would love to have you on. I'm struggling to find a Newcastle fan, to be honest with you. So if anybody's up for it, let me know that if you're not going to the game.
I'm sure there'll be a Newcastle fan in the chat, and if not on the watch back, that will be 100% interested in that, and I'll put it out to the loaded boys that are not going to the game as well to see if they want to join. But we'll get that message out, and we'll definitely see if there's a Newcastle fan that wants to join you, and we'll make it our mission that, Chris, by the time we kick off at 2 o'clock, you've got a Newcastle fan there watching the game with you.
Only because we haven't lost since I started doing watch along. So,
oh, in that case, let's cancel the make sure they don't happen. Therefore, we get the 3 points. But look, my predictions in the chat, and it's not 19-0. It's not even 5-5 either. But actually, Terry Davidson's got it nailed on. I think we'll win 2-1. Julie Baker said the same. And Mark Todd has also said a 2-1 win to Newcastle. So, 100%. I think it'll be a close game, but I think it's a game that we might nick, depending on how late into the games at PSV tomorrow that Leicester go into. So, be a very, very interesting one from our perspective. And look, there is more to come from us. If you haven't checked out Squad Game, check out Squad Game from yesterday. Fantastic show. Sunday, it's either Sunday night or Monday night. We've not quite decided yet, but we're going to do a loaded review of the Leicester game, talking about all the key points and our opinions of how the game's gone. Hopefully, it's going to be from a 3 with Newcastle getting 3 points. And just very, very quickly, massive thank you to our sponsors with Bronwyn from Black and White Army. Some fantastic gear here, and we are awaiting her launch of 1881, which will be very, very soon. Simon's in the chat. Get involved with Shy Burns, massive supporter of mental health. Some fantastic gear there, and lots that are already placing orders. And our other sponsor, Pins and Prints, with some fantastic pins and prints. The fantastic Ben Arthur goal, the Trippier goal earlier on this season against Everton, his famous celebration, and we've got some kit mashups as well of the old years gone by. Some fantastic kit mashups on the Pins and Prints. So get yourself involved, and of course, we are well on the way to getting our 3K subs. Drop us a sub for those that are new in the chat, and if you feel like you want to become part of the Loaded family, become a member and click that blue button to join. Lots of members joined this week, so welcome to you all. Guys, massive thanks for you to joining this very, very special away days for me personally. Chris from Leicester Till I Die podcast, massive thanks to you. Great points from Leicester.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Best of luck in for the rest of the season. Obviously after Sunday,
of course.
Of course, we'll look to get you back on next season.
We'll be playing you next season. Don't worry. You're not, like I say, you're not going down. And good luck to you for the rest of the season as well after Sunday, like you say.
Definitely. And good luck in the Europa Conference as well on Thursday.
Cheers, mate.
Jordan, absolute pleasure for you joining us on your first away days. Great to have your points in there. Obviously, you're going to the presser on Friday and the game on Sunday. I'm sure we'll catch you on another show in the next few weeks. I'll be in touch, and we'll get you back on and join the team for a little bit of a chat. And Keith, 00 Stato, absolute pleasure as always. Great stats. Great to have you part of the chat, and as well, so many in the chat. Great show again. Thanks for a great show as always. Guys, it wouldn't be the same without you in the chat. Fantastic questions from you all, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And as always, we do love playing away. You guys take care. Have a fantastic weekend, as I will, up in Newcastle, and I'll speak to you soon.